Sometimes the greatest terror comes from looking up and seeing what should not be. Welcome to Miss Nightmare, where shadows whisper and the unseen becomes seen. Tonight we explore a tale as vast as the sky and as chilling as the void beyond our world. Imagine a day like any other. The sun high and the clouds just wisps in an otherwise clear blue. But then something shifts. Your gaze lifts, and there, etched against the vast canvas above, looms a figure so immense, so utterly out of place it seizes the breath in your chest. This isn't just a figment of dark literature or a specter from the depths of nightmare. It's an encounter that questions the fabric of our reality, a giant humanoid shape towering above the earth, witnessed by a lone soul whose day turned from ordinary to the stuff of horror lore. Prepare yourself, as we lift the veil on the extraordinary and the inexplicable. It all began on an ordinary morning, under an anything but ordinary sky. Imagine this, a day so typical and mundane that the most exciting event was choosing between coffee or tea. The sun rose as it always did, casting its golden hues across a sleepy town. Birds chirped their usual symphony, and the world, it seemed, was at peace. But there, high above, where the blue begins to fade into the endless expanse of space, something utterly extraordinary loomed. At first glance, it might have been dismissed as a trick of the light or perhaps a bizarre cloud formation. But as the seconds ticked by, the truth became harder to ignore. A colossal figure, impossibly vast, hung suspended in the sky. It was humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, yet it was unlike any human you've ever seen. Larger than any building, its head alone could eclipse the sun, casting long, eerie shadows that danced across the earth. The air grew thick with a palpable tension. Birds that had been blissfully singing stilled their songs, and a chilling breeze swept through, rustling the leaves with whispers of unease. The figure did not move, did not blink, yet its presence was as intrusive and menacing as a storm cloud poised to unleash fury. Imagine standing there, your morning cup of coffee growing cold in your hand as you stare upward, your mind grappling with the impossible. Questions raced through the mind like wild horses. What is it? Why is it here? Am I the only one seeing this? But no answers came, only the oppressive weight of a silent colossus watching from above. The normalcy of the day shattered like glass under the boots of an uninvited giant. The familiar comfort of the known world peeled away, revealing a layer of reality so bizarre, so frightening, that it threatened to unhinge the very fabric of everyday life. What would you do if the sky above betrayed your understanding of reality? As fear gripped his heart, the sky offered more horrors. Imagine, if you will, a serene day shattered in an instant, the sun obscured not by clouds, but by a colossal figure, towering so high that the heavens seemed but a backdrop to its immense form. The narrator, already reeling from the surreal sight of this giant person in the sky, felt a fresh wave of panic as an airplane on its routine flight path came into view. It was a small speck against the vastness of the giant, yet it drew inexorably closer to the towering figure. The air seemed to thrum with tension, the world holding its breath. As the airplane neared, the giant's hand moved with a terrifying deliberateness. It was a slow, almost graceful action that belied the horror of what was to follow. With a sudden swipe, as effortless as one swatting a fly, the giant closed its fingers around the aircraft. The screams of the engines were drowned out by a silence that fell over the onlookers below. A silence born from shock, from the inability to comprehend or predict what might happen next. On the ground, chaos ensued. People scrambled for their phones, capturing videos, screaming, crying out to the sky as if their voices could somehow undo what they had just witnessed. Others ran, driven by the primal urge to escape from something they couldn't possibly outrun. The narrator, rooted to the spot by fear and fascination, watched as the giant brought the airplane closer to its face, obscured partially by the clouds. What happened next was obscured, the details swallowed by the vastness of the figure and the distance. But the implications were clear, the fear palpable. The giant's actions, so stark against the pale sky, suggested a reality too terrifying to fully grasp. In moments of terror, who can you trust? The question lingered, heavy as the shadow of the colossal figure that now seemed to watch over the world with unknown intentions. Desperation leads to daring decisions. In a moment of sheer panic, our narrator, breathless and bewildered, reaches for the phone. With trembling fingers, they dial the emergency services, a beacon of hope in what seems like an apocalyptic scenario. The response on the other end of the line? Skepticism. Disbelief drips through the operator's voice as the narrator describes the gargantuan figure looming in the sky. Are you sure you're not seeing things? Maybe it's just a cloud formation, or perhaps you're feeling unwell, the operator suggests, their tone teetering between professional concern and veiled doubt. But this isn't a figment of imagination, nor a trick of the light. It's real, and it's terrifying. As the conversation spirals into frustrating circles of disbelief, the narrator's plea for help grows more urgent. They insist. They describe again the enormity of the figure, its disturbing actions, the consumed aircraft. Yet the response remains lukewarm, wrapped in bureaucratic calm. Then, a twist. Shortly after the call, a knock at the door shatters the silence. Heart-pounding, the narrator peers through the peephole. Outside stand not the expected emergency responders in their familiar uniforms, but rather a group of stern-faced individuals in nondescript suits. Their arrival doesn't feel like salvation. It feels like an escalation. These agents, with their cryptic badges and unreadable expressions, introduce themselves in vague terms. "We need to talk about what you've seen," they say, their voices low and urgent. The air thickens with a new tension, a mix of relief and deepening dread. It's clear now that this ordeal stretches beyond mere emergency services. It's something bigger, possibly darker. When help arrives, it might not be the rescue you expect. Beneath the surface, secrets await. Imagine, if you will, the shock of being whisked away in the dead of night, the world above growing distant as you descend into the bowels of the earth. The narrator's journey didn't end with the sighting of that monstrous figure in the sky. It was merely the beginning. As our protagonist was transported deeper underground, the air grew cooler, the sounds of the surface faded, and a sense of foreboding settled like a dense fog. In the dimly lit corridors of the underground facility, the narrator was led through a maze of sterile, echoing hallways. The smell of antiseptic and the hum of high-tech equipment filled the space, a stark contrast to the chaos witnessed above. It was here, in this subterranean labyrinth, that they met the enigmatic figure known only as the Cognizant. The Cognizant, a man whose eyes seemed to carry the weight of untold secrets, greeted the narrator not with hostility, but with a weary resignation. "You've seen the giant," he began, his voice a mixture of intrigue and sorrow. The room seemed to close in as the Cognizant spoke of the giant as more than just a physical entity. It was, he revealed, part of a much larger and hidden framework, a glimpse into the cogs that turn behind the curtain of our perceived reality. As the narrator listened, a slideshow clicked through images of other such phenomena. Shadows that didn't align with their casters, landscapes where gravity seemed to erratically falter, historical anomalies written off as the product of less enlightened times. "The world is not as it appears," the Cognizant pressed on. "What you think of as reality is but a thin veneer over something much more complex, much more frightening. We, my dear, are not the protagonists of our own story, but merely pawns in a game whose scope and beginning lie far beyond our reach." As the narrator absorbed these revelations, the weight of ignorance bore down heavily. The giant in the sky was just a signpost, a mere whisper of the cosmic symphony playing out in unseen realms. What truths lie hidden from our eyes, waiting in the shadows of our ignorance? As we look to the skies, perhaps ignorance truly is bliss. Our journey today through the chilling tale of the giant in the sky leaves us on a precipice, peering into the abyss of the unknown. How often do we gaze upward, never truly knowing what might gaze back? Today's narrative not only chills the spine, but also invites us to question the very fabric of our reality. What unseen forces linger just beyond our perception, waiting in the vast expanses above us? This encounter, surreal as it may seem, serves as a stark reminder of our own limitations in understanding the universe's mysteries. It beckons us to consider what else might be hiding in plain sight, observed only by those who dare to look closer. As we draw the curtains on this eerie tale, I must apologize if tonight the shadows seem darker and the world a bit stranger. For more stories that dance on the edge of reality, don't forget to subscribe to Miss Nightmare. Sleep tight and remember, keep your eyes on the skies and your mind open to the impossible. Good night from Miss Nightmare.